Thank you very much. So my name is Derrick Weyrauch. I'm the president and CEO of Palladium I. We are an exploration stage company focused on green transportation minerals, all of which are critical. Our projects are located both in Europe, Finland, as well as in Canada. By the nature of the projects that we've put together, we're really covering all the transportation verticals. So we're looking at magmatic sulfide projects, whether it be a Canalas sitting or disseminated sulfide package. These emplacements tend to have the same metal suite, just in different ratios. So whether we're talking about the EV revolution and the need for sulfide nickel, copper, or the hybrid vehicles and the internal combustion vehicles that continue to need the palladium for the catalytic converter, we're looking at supplying and developing projects with that in mind. Stepping away big picture right now as we sit here, we have over 50% of our market capitalization in cash. As of September, about $12.5 million in cash. We're trading currently between $20–25 million Canadian. And we have two significant shareholders. One is Eric Sprott, owns just over 10% of the company. He's been in this story for a few years, as well as Glencore. Glencore came in as a strategic partner earlier this year. We were trading at the time at 9 cents per share. They came in for a placement, $5.4 million at 15 cents. So unfortunately, they're a little bit underwater, but I think it supports what our strategy has been with regards to accumulating projects that could be quite significant. So where are our projects? So we've got four key projects. Canalask, Tyko, and KS are effectively the same geological model. They're a large conolith or dike, a feeder system that we're targeting, embayments or traps, as it were, for massive sulfide mineralization. Over the course of this year, we've spent most of our time focused on the Tyko project in Canada, where we've got a couple discoveries of extremely high-grade, high-tenor nickel-copper sulfides. We're talking up to 10% nickel and roughly 5 or 6% copper. Very early-stage project. We'll get into some of the details there. We will be planning to drill Canalask project at the end of Q1 this coming year. It'll be our first drill program on that property, and KS is in inventory. But the fundamental value, if you will, in terms of our endowment lies at LK. It's a different geological model. It is neighboring the KS project in Finland. It's bulk tonnage disseminated sulfide in a layered intrusion. We have about 90 million tons of material in inventory. It represents drilling on 5 kilometers of a 37-kilometer contact, which we know has been reconnaissance drilled, mapped, surveyed. So we feel very confident that we can increase the size of that project dramatically with additional drilling. We've just chosen to focus on Tyko, which has spectacular grades, and we thought it might get a little bit more interest from the market. Zooming in to where Tyko is located, it's in Ontario, Canada, the northeast corner of Lake Superior. Tyko is the blob in the center. As you can see, the blue there is the mafic, ultramafic intrusion known as the bulldozer. And that project is about 20,000 hectares in size. We've just increased the project with that block to the north, which we're calling Tyko II. It's about 8,000 hectares of property, and we have started drilling a few weeks ago on this project. But to give you a context in terms of scale and what we're trying to do, here's Tyko lined up with some of the world-class nickel-copper sulfide projects globally. So our thesis is very simple. We've got a new district here. It's basically untouched. There could be something large hiding in there, and we're working to try and unlock that and find it. Zooming into Tyko I a little bit, you can see the first discovery had over at Smoke Lake. We've got about 48 holes into that area, and starting right at surface, or effectively 2 meters below surface, massive sulfides, about 350 meter in strike length. We've got another 450 meters worth of semi-massive sulfide, followed up with a discovery at West Pickle, about 20 kilometers away. And, again, this is a property that hasn't even been mapped by the Ontario Geological Survey, so all the data that you're seeing in our results are basically from doing the grunt work. And we spent this year doing that grunt work and focusing in on ground truthing, basic prospecting, mapping, soil sampling, etc. As you can see from the images here, the rocks are quite impressive and basically look the same, whether it's Smoke Lake or West Pickle. So what's inside that 20-kilometer space? That's what we're all about chasing. What you're seeing here on the image is these east-west trending mag highs that are highlighted in purple, and that's where we believe the mineralization or the remnant Canalith system may reside. But it's a large property, so we broke it up into pieces, 3 main pieces, and we've done about 7,000 soil samples over the course of this year, and basically de-risking the drill target locations with the soils as well as some geophysics. So we'll just zoom in on the West Pickle area. The high-grade discovery is to the west of that large blob that's covered by the soil grid. And as you can see from what we've disclosed to date, the copper responded extremely well in that gap between the West Pickle and the RJ zone, where we also have some very impressive results. But you're talking about 4 or 5 kilometer distance there. We've also announced the results of an MT, or magnetotelluric survey. Deep-seated feeder is the target there, and we came out with that news about 3 weeks ago. So presently we are drilling shallow holes underneath these soils to prove up the soils, and we would hope to follow up with deeper drilling to chase that MT anomaly. But we'll need some additional permits for it. We've certainly had some delays in getting permits, given we are operating in Ontario. The Tyko II property, which we recently added, we'd already done a bunch of work on the property with regards to VTEM surveying, as well as some soils. You can see some of the results here of the VTEM. We've got multiple targets on the property with historic grab samples and a little bit of drilling as well. We will be drilling the Mashkanabe zone this program as well. Unfortunately, we do not have permits for the Geonet or the Ferries Lake, but we will be testing that Mashkanabe zone and following up the historical resource. The interesting bit is you can see a power line at the top of this image. It seems to have masked an interesting anomaly which we were able to uncover this year. So that's an area of focus for us as well. But that's basically Tyko. It's an emplacement. It's sitting in a tonalite batholith and completely a greenfield discovery, and we're going to continue to press forward with that. We've invested about $5 million this year on that project. But Canalask is another one of these projects. It's very close to the Alaskan border, sitting up in the Yukon. It has original geometry, big Canalas system. It actually runs about 150 kilometers in length. It is a former Falconbridge project that was dropped when they got taken over back in 2008 amongst a number of their other exploration projects. And it was great interest to us because it sat inside a junior for 15 years, not being looked at. And it was quite evident from the research that we did that Falconbridge was onto something. They just didn't follow it up because they just ran out of time. And the particular bit here, the nuance, is that there's a historical resource on the project, about 400,000 tons, sitting in a footwall that's completely unexplained. It had to come somewhere, shouldn't be sitting in the footwall. Where did it come from? Logic is it came from this dike. And curiously, they only reported the nickel. They didn't report any of the copper. And there's a lot of copper in the area. But the historical UTEM plates, or geophysical plates that had been developed, it was great that they did it, but unfortunately, as the rush to get out of the exploration game, somebody forgot to download points from their handheld GPS. So we had to redo the UTEM survey. We completed that last month, and we have these new plates. So as I said, we would be looking at drilling this project at the end of the first quarter. So this image, shows you where that footwall deposit is. They did some shallow drilling, which is wonderful, but we think the plates are deeper seated. We're looking at probably 300 to 400 meter holes. Start off with about 5 or 6 of them targeting those plates. As you can see in the top left of this image, we're looking for some sort of trap where we may have had an accumulation of massive sulfides. The other bit of our company is where we really got our start, which was in Finland. So a couple-hour drive east of Oulu or southeast of Rovaniemi. Finland is a fantastic country to be operating in. And last year, we published what I think is a very strong resource with a tremendous amount of metallurgical support to back up the process flow and the assumed recovery rates. We've got over 2 million ounces of precious metal, hundreds of millions of pounds of copper, nickel, etc., over a 5-kilometer strike length where we've actually conducted drilling, and those are outlined in the red ellipsis. It's very clear that we can expand the project based on some of the reconnaissance drilling we've done. At the top of the image there, Kokua, is where we have elevated palladium, hence the company's name originally 4.5 years ago, Palladium came from. And we've got a 7-kilometer long IP anomaly. And IP has been extremely good at helping us to discover mineralization there. Basically, you just point the drill at the anomaly and you're going to hit mineralization. So we see great expansion potential there at the Kokua area. Haukiaho down on the south, though, it's inside a 22-kilometer long trend or contact. It's been reconnaissance drilled, mapped, sampled, etc. We know it's fully mineralized, but it is strictly a copper-nickel play, low-grade, bulk tonnage situation. So, in terms of providing foundational support and opportunity to have a large-size project, this is quite compelling to us. The nuance on this particular project is the metal tenor in the sulfides is extremely high. You're talking about 3 ounces of precious metal, 10% nickel, 13% copper. But we're looking at 1 to 3% in this setting. But going off to the bottom right there in purple is the KS project, which when stepping back and looking at regional scale mapping, you can see is a massive dike feature that porpoises across the country, sticks out on both the gravity and the magnetics extremely well. It's believed to have been the pathway flowing to the west to have emplaced the entire Kalisma complex, including those narrow sections, which you see there being LK, perhaps even the Sohanko deposit 80 or 90 kilometers to the west, and possibly even the Kemi-Chromite. There's a tremendous amount of evidence here that there's been massive heat flux, as you can see by the image of the rock here. It's highly deformed orthogneiss, and it's been assimilated. And it's that dark ridge that you see in the upper image going across there. There's a lot of it. But nobody has drilled the Canalas, right? There's one hole that the Finnish Geological Survey put in about 2 years ago. Unfortunately, they ended up taking Christmas off and lost the hole. But they did hit the right type of rocks. They hit peridotite rocks at around 1,300 meters. And they were aiming for the deepest part of this system, about 5 kilometers to the east of our boundary. We believe we've got the shallower piece where it came up and did the emplacement. So next step for us would be to do some deep-seated magnetotellurics or MT survey to try and model where that basement is, again, looking for that trap as we saw in the prior image at Canalask, and following it up with offensive drilling to look for the massive sulfides. Again, based on the tenors that we have at LK, if we find a unit of massive or semi-massive sulfides here, it could be extremely valuable rock. I'll just point out in the last 20 seconds here, one of the things that our company is about is really having deep technical experience. While I'm not the geos, we've got on the board and very much involved with the company, Peter Lightfoot, former head of nickel sulfide for Vale. We have a partnership with Glencore on the technical side as well as an equity investment from them, so we have access and we use their people as well when looking at these projects. Neil Pettigrew runs things on a day-to-day basis, and he's an expert in this area as well. But with that, I will pause since I'm out of time, and thank you very much for your attendance. Please feel free to grab me in the hallway with any other questions you may have.
Thank you, Derrick.